Hello and welcome to the Q&A session of the Get Started in Online Learning MOOC. We've really enjoyed the last 2 weeks and we hope you have too. And we've been overwhelmed by the sheer number of questions that you've raised, which we hope we're going to answer in this session.
Well, Laura, I don't think we've been overwhelmed particularly. We've really enjoyed reading all the comments. And we actually had over 7,000 students start this course and from 46 different countries from around the world. Every single continent was represented, apart from Antarctica, I think.
Yes, I did point that out.
What is it we intended when we wrote the course, Laura?
Well, we came up with some sort of learning outcomes that we hope you get out of it, and I thought I'd just mention those here. So they were to think about what online learning is and how it relates to what you do in everyday life, so that you can consider the difference between formal and informal learning, so that you can complete some activities that are very similar to the sorts of online learning activities you might encounter in any online university, and also so that you can examine how online learning can actually be a life-changing experience for many people.
Obviously, when Laura and I were writing the course, we didn't know what people would expect to get out of it. So we're really keen to see some of the comments. And in the early weeks of week one, we had a really interesting range of comments. For example, we had somebody who lives in England. Her son's going to university, and she wanted to get a sense of what current online university study is like.
And there was another person from Romania who was a teacher, and he was very concerned that he needed to be up to date with online learning experiences so that he can pass that on to his students.
I thought it was really nicely summed up by something I'd like to read out fairly quickly. I want to get back into the swing of things, and I want the challenge. I used to attend classes on campus, and this will help me again. I want to learn new subject content that the community college or state college near me might not offer.
So we've discussed expectations. So what did learners get out of the experience?
They seem to have had a very positive experience on this MOOC. It was really nice to see so many of the comments showing that people were thinking about their learning in all sorts of different ways and sharing those thoughts with other people. And I had one really nice comment. We sort of summed a lot of that up. And he said, "We often regret not pushing ourselves to our full potential. Doing this course made me eager to aspire towards getting a degree. I wished I had pursued it earlier, but I've neglected to do it because of time constraints." So they've got somebody sort of really going for it, which was really nice to see.
Wonderful. And I think some of you thought that you perhaps weren't doing the course right. There are a few comments saying, oh, it took me a lot longer or a lot shorter than it said it would. Don't worry about that. It's just an experience, and so you'll actually get used to learning online.
One or two people were worried about sort of going on to the second week too early, and that was fine as well.
Oh yes, exactly. If you study more formally, then there will be a structure to follow. But in this context, it didn't matter, and as long as you enjoyed the experience, that's fine.
We've just been talking about how some people get worried about the nuts and bolts of online learning. But one of the early activities we asked you to do was just think about what you do online already. And the range was tremendous. People read blogs, listened to music, looked for ideas, helped them in their work. All aspects of life were there.
And I think it's really interesting the extent to which some of the things that people did actually related to learning. So when you're finding out about something online or when you're looking at the timetables, you're actually learning things. You're learning about what's the information that you want to find out, but you're also learning new skills, searching and that sort of thing.
So everything we do online is a really good example of informal online learning. And the course went on to make the link between informal learning and formal learning, and how the skills you develop in informal learning can help more formal learning later on.
And as the informal and formal learning spectrum in week one showed us, the MOOC itself is a really good example of this transition between informal learning and the more formal learning that people encounter at university.
It's really clear from what you've told us that one of the key skills that you're already using as part of your online activity is internet searching. So the MOOC provided a particular example of how you might use that for online learning, and that was the First World War example. And many of you found it really interesting. If you remember, you were asked to find out how many casualties from different countries there were and how difficult that was to put an actual figure on it. One or two of you were unhappy using such a catastrophic event in world history as a focus, but most of you got the point that it was about using those skills on a particular topic.
And in week 2, you had a look at the different applications that we might use in online learning. And 3 were chosen. This was the Chinese language application, the O Fortuna game, and then the Open Science Laboratory experiment. And I think all of you really enjoyed the Chinese language app and the O Fortuna game and found out about not just how to write Chinese, which I'd never experienced before, but also something about the experience of people in other centuries and in other parts of the world. And it's something that's relevant to today, really.
But I think one or two people raised sort of interesting questions about the OSL app, didn't they?
That's true. I mean, the issue about the OSL app is that you're doing an experiment online that you might normally be expected to do in a laboratory. And I think people were concerned that it didn't really replicate real life. I think the point here really is that it's not going to be exactly the same as you'd experience in a real life laboratory, but it's to give you some of the skills to prepare you for what you're going to experience when you go into a laboratory for the first time.
It's clear from many of your really interesting comments that what a lot of you have already worked out is which device works best where.
That's really true. There was a fantastic comment by a learner from Indonesia, and she found that when she was sort of catching up with the course and just wanted to sort of find out little bits of what was going on, then she'd use her smartphone. But when she wanted to contribute more fully, then she'd do that at home and with her laptop.
And that's great when you have that range of devices available, but sometimes they don't work all the time.
No, that's true. I think we're still in a phase now where some devices are best for certain things, and also some of the applications that we use, such as the Chinese language app, you really needed a smartphone or an iPad to be able to use that because it used touchscreen technology. And I think as technology changes, then that will help. You know, learners will be able to access particular types of learning in the way that suits them best. And obviously they'll have more hardware available as well.
One of the issues you've raised is that of working by yourself if you're an online learner. Now, some people actually prefer working by themselves. For example, one of our learners on this MOOC said, I can immerse myself into my work. But people making those comments really also recognise that from time to time you do need to link up with other people, make connections with them to promote your learning.
Although one learner did say that they hated Facebook with a vengeance.
But even the person who hated Facebook admitted that they did need to make their better use of social media for their learning.
Oh, that's true. And opportunities such as forums provide a really good sort of environment for learners to engage with each other and also with their tutor.
That's right. And one or two people made the link between motivation and working alone, and they thought it was more difficult to get motivated than in a traditional university because they felt there'd be nobody around them to support them.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think when it comes to it, you do have to do quite a lot of online learning on your own. And so you do have to be very strict about the time you spend and where you decide to study. But at the other side of things, then I think there are people there, your tutors and also other learners who can help you in that process.
That's right. And obviously one of the big roles for tutors is that they give feedback on your learning.
Yes, and I think that has a really important function in online learning because that's one of the main ways that you communicate with your tutor and also, of course, find out about how you're getting on in any course that you decide to study. And I must say, actually, that there is perhaps a difference between receiving feedback online and receiving it face-to-face. It feels quite stark when you get that email from your tutor saying how you've done.
I think that's what some people think, but we had some really interesting comments. For example, somebody suggested that they actually preferred electronic feedback, and because it enabled him to reflect on that feedback rather than having to sort of deal with it face-to-face with the tutor. And he's written really nicely. I take time, fight pride, and then get back to the feedback.
So this MOOC is entitled Get Started with Online Learning, and it's been really great to see just how many of you have already signed up for other MOOCs and online courses. Jonathan, there was a really nice comment from a learner in a war zone.
That's right. He told us his university had been closed by the war, but that this MOOC had enabled him to continue his studies.
So we hope you've enjoyed this MOOC and it's given you an insight into the benefits of online learning.
Get more from the Open University. Check out the links on screen now.